Since I'm here, I naturally have to do my best, Chpter smiled and said casually. Moroji laughed. I hope you don't encounter me too early. Otherwise, you'll lose very badly. Chpter just smiled. At the same time, on the other side of the resentful devil prison, Huang Zuntian led more than 10 geniuses of the Life faction. A prodigy asked, Life Lord, should we wait? I feel that this round is a little too simple. There will probably be immeasurable danger ahead. Huang Zuntian said, I would naturally be careful in the past, but there's no need this time. All of you, follow behind me. I want to be the first to pass. His robes fluttered and his long hair fluttered. A sharp and domineering aura could be felt in him. The geniuses of the Life faction were stunned, but they did not dare to refute. In the Life faction, Huang Zuntian said that if he gave an order, no one could overturn it. Huang Zuntian and the others were extremely fast. Not long after, they encountered the resentful devils. Countless resentful devils were waiting at the end of the horizon. Some stopped in the air, while others crawled on the ground. They were densely packed and the pressure they gave off was intense. The eyelids of the geniuses of the Life faction twitched. The resentful devils were red and black in all shapes and sizes. Their resentment and killing intent caused the temperature of the world to decrease to a freezing point, causing one's soul to tremble. Huang Zuntian did not stop. He pressed forward. Black patterns appeared on his face. It was the power of a Calamity Life controller, the Great Tao Providence Divine Authority. Huang Zuntian began the first battle between the prodigies and the resentful devils. The hall was extremely noisy. Who is he? He's so strong. Huang Zuntian, Life Lord. Don't you know him? The Life Lord is not even 100 million years old? This. Ha ha ha, the Divine Might Heavenly Sage is only 10 million years old. Vying for the eternal peak will be meaningless if he participates. Indeed. You can go beyond the title of a prodigy as long as you're strong enough. As for prodigies, they're still growing. What about Han Huang? He has already surpassed the Great Tao Sage realm. The mighty figures talked among themselves. Huang Zuntian was like a sharp sword, tearing apart the resentful devil's battle line with unstoppable force. The ultimate god of punishment looked at Hanju and asked, Huang Zuntian is also from the heavenly Tao. What's the heavenly sage's impression of him? Hanju said, speaking of which, I knew him when I was still immortal. I can feel his determination. He's different today. He probably wants to point his sword at the peak of the world this time. The ultimate god of punishment was deep in thought. Han Ling said in a low voice, Father, he has a force on him. Hanju didn't reply. He naturally knew. Great Tao Providence Divine Authority. The supreme rules above the Great Tao were definitely strong. It was hard to say what was more powerful, the Great Tao Providence Divine Authority or the Great Creation. Great creations were different and could not be generalized. The geniuses of the Life faction were unstoppable under Huang Zuntian's lead. Soon, they broke out of the siege and continued to rush to the center of the resentful devil prison. More resentful devils were waiting behind them. Lost. A month was a long time. Most of the geniuses were still observing and were not in a hurry to make a move. However, less than half a day later, the first person to pass appeared. Life Lord, Huang Zuntian. Not only did he pass by himself, but he also led his geniuses to clear the level together. They teleported back to 10 Absolute City after clearing the level. Already Great Tao Divine Spirits were waiting in front of the teleportation formation to record the rankings. The second wave was cleared by the Heavenly Tao Hidden Sect. There were no surprises. After all, the sect had many people. However, they cleared it the next day. Ha ha ha, We're too fast. What a month, we'll clear it the next day. The black-held chicken smiled proudly. The others were also laughing. It was too easy. The resentful devils were indeed powerful, but they also had many ruthless people. At this moment, a great Tao divine spirit flew over and told them the ranking, stunning them. Huang Zuantian, Life Lord. Han Huang's eyes flickered with fighting spirit. Along the way, he could be said to be majestic. It was almost all him showing his mystical powers. He did not expect anyone to be faster than him. He was agitated. At this moment, a teleportation formation in the distance lit up. A terrifying aura spread out. Clearly, the other party had just ended the battle and had yet to restrain his killing intent. Everyone looked at the figure and saw a prodigy rush out. He was alone. The geniuses of the heavenly Tao hidden sect were secretly shocked. This fellow was alone, but he was actually not much slower than them. But they clearly did not see him before they entered. In other words, while they were talking, this prodigy had killed his way through the densest circle of resentful devils. A great Tao divine spirit flew over and recorded his ranking. Great heavenly God King. He glanced at Han Huang and quickly left. Let's go too. Everyone did not think too much and quickly left. Although the resentful devils were strong, their intelligence was not high. Their rationality was occupied by killing intent, so it was not difficult for the geniuses to deal with them. As long as the difference in cultivation level and the number of enemies was not great, it was still easy to pass. The 10 Absolute City became lively again. Every time a prodigy cleared the level, their name would quickly spread throughout the city. Not only that, but the prodigies would also be roped in by various factions. In the palace where the mighty figures gathered, there seemed to be harmony but also undercurrents. If their private actions were connected, it would be even more lively than 10 Absolute City. Hanju could hear it, anyway. Some mighty figures had solemn expressions and roared in private. The contrast made him want to laugh. Many people also targeted his disciples. Hanju was not unhappy about this. He knew that he didn't care enough about his disciples and couldn't even give them authority, so he let them develop their own social network. Of course, all of this was based on favorability. If a disciple's favorability towards him decreased to the point where he was dissatisfied, he had to teach them a lesson or focus on them. Fortunately, the personal disciples did not disappoint him. A month passed quickly after the first round. The entire 10 Absolute City was looking forward to the second round. The first round of the Devil Trampling Road has ended. A total of 2,742 geniuses have passed. The second round will begin in half a year. All geniuses, be prepared. The second round is to challenge the strongest. All geniuses will join forces to challenge the Divine Might Heavenly Sage. The ultimate god of punishment's voice resounded throughout the city. In the next second, the entire city fell silent. All the living beings felt that they had heard wrong. Challenge the Divine Might Heavenly Sage? What the hell? In the hall, all the mighty figures were stunned. Then, they exploded. An anxious Great Tao Supreme stood up and asked, "Challenge the Divine Might Heavenly Sage? How is that possible? Furthermore, how can we determine the ranking?" They had to challenge the Divine Might Heavenly Sage. All the mighty figures in the hall panicked. Although the chaotic will had disappeared, they still remembered how terrifying Hanju was. At the same time, the 20,000 geniuses in 10 Absolute City became excited. They were challenging the Divine Might Heavenly Sage. This was a rare opportunity. The Divine Might Heavenly Sage would definitely not kill them. This was a good opportunity to show off in front of him. All right. This round is too good. Ha ha ha, wouldn't it be interesting if we overturned the divine might heavenly sage? We indeed have to work hard as this is the first chaotic assembly. You're thinking too much. You might not know. Sigh, forget it. Let's not talk about it. It's a bitter history. How can we judge the ranking? The top 10,000 will definitely be decided in this round. While the geniuses were discussing, the mighty figures in the hall quietened down. Although they were dissatisfied, they did not dare to be too impudent. After all, the divine might heavenly sage and the ultimate god of punishment were far stronger than them. They were afraid in front of power. Hanju said, "Don't worry about their lives. I will leave a trace of their souls behind. With the cultivation of these geniuses, even a trace of their souls is enough to revive them. If not, we will have the help of the great Tao Divine Spirit." He scanned everyone present and said, "I know you're worried that I'm deliberately targeting you. You'll understand that I'll target everyone when the second round begins." His eyes were extremely sharp. All the mighty figures avoided his gaze and couldn't help but recall the scene of the million great Tao sages fighting Hanju. Indeed. Facing Hanju, numbers were meaningless. Just one move was enough to kill all the geniuses. Moreover, even if Hanju wanted to protect the heavenly Tao and the hidden sect, there were only dozens of them. It couldn't affect the overall situation. The leaders of the major factions were still very confident in the top 10,000. As for the leaders of the small factions who targeted the top 10,000, they did not dare to say a word. There was still half a year left. The mighty figures began to secretly warn their geniuses. In short, don't force yourself. Many geniuses were arrogant and prideful. They would definitely die miserably if they provoked the divine might heavenly sage. Han Ling smiled expectantly. TSK, she could finally see her father's serious expression. On the other side, in a large courtyard in 10 Absolute City, the geniuses of the Heavenly Tao and the Hidden Sect gathered here to discuss the second stage. At that time, I'll kneel down to Master. Can I survive until the end? The chaotic Heavenly Dog lay on the ground and chuckled. The Black Hell Chicken said disdainfully, "Look at your dog-like mannerism." Their cultivation levels could already allow them to transform. However, the Black Hell Chicken liked its true form, so the chaotic Heavenly Dog followed suit. After all, they had the best relationship. Zhao Xianyuan smiled proudly. "Don't tell me you can't withstand a single blow from Master? How embarrassing." Some laughed, while others were worried. Some of them would probably be eliminated if Hanju didn't go easy on them. Fang Liang shook his head. "I might have to leave at this juncture. Everyone, work hard." Murongqi smiled and patted his shoulder, but he did not say anything. Zhou Fan said proudly, "It's good enough to be in the top 10,000, unlike us who want to fight for the top 10. For a time, they laughed and argued. Jiang Juesher noticed Han Huang sitting at the side not saying anything. "Are you thinking about Huang Zuntian?" Jiang Juesher asked. Han Huang hesitated for a moment but still nodded. Jiang Juesher smiled and said, "Don't think about it. Think about me more. It's like only the two of you can fight for the eternal peak." Han Huang smiled and snorted. "Senior Jiang, I'll leave Huang Zuntian to you." "No problem. You can deal with Formless World." The two of them looked at each other and smiled. This was the tacit understanding they achieved after being together for millions of years. Chang Yuer came over and said, "I know Huang Zuntian. He was defeated by your father and was imprisoned for a period of time long ago in the mortal world. He would have died if he had not begged for mercy." Han Huang's eyes lit up. He hurriedly asked, "Aunt Chang, tell me?" Chang Yuer beamed at his greeting. She threw him a look that said, "You're very sensible." Then, she talked about the past. Jiangjuesher was also very curious, so he followed. All the geniuses were exchanging information in 10 Absolute City. Half a year passed quickly. More than 20,000 geniuses gathered in the center of the city under the guidance of the city guards, waiting for the second round to begin. Although they were already prepared, they were still very nervous. The square was in chaos. TSK, I've never seen the Divine Might Heavenly Sage before. I'm about to face the strongest in the chaos. Who's going to be the vanguard? Those geniuses who claim to be invincible in the same realm should rush up and be the vanguard. The geniuses discussed among themselves. The ultimate god of punishment did not speak, so the nervousness and excitement kept increasing in the square, like a volcano about to erupt. Finally, the second round of the challenge is about to begin. All geniuses will face the Divine Might Heavenly Sage together. The 10,000 strong will be decided according to their survival time. If the number of geniuses who die is too high and can't fill up the spots, the top 10,000 will be determined according to their recovery time. The first 10,000 geniuses to recover their bodies will be the 10,000 strong. The ultimate god of punishment's words brought great pressure to the geniuses. What was going on? Competing in body recovery? Was the Divine Might Heavenly Sage so ruthless? Before they could think further, a strong light rose from the ground of the square and teleported more than 20,000 geniuses away. Hanju also disappeared from the hall. They came to a deep space that was dark and void. At this moment, Hanju appeared above all the geniuses. Everyone looked at him, and the atmosphere instantly turned solemn. Huang Zuntian, Han Tuo, Han Huang, Yi Tian, Han Qing'er, Murongqi, Chu Shiren, Dao Sovereign, Zhao Xianyuan, Jiang Yi, Zhao Shuangchuan, Azure Heaven Mystic, Qin Ling, Han Yu, Heavenly Constellation Fiend Celestial, Guan Bubi, Black Hell Chicken, and so on. Their eyes were filled with admiration and reverence. It was not only the heavenly Tao and the hidden sect. Most geniuses were the same. The Divine Might Heavenly Sage was a legend of the chaos. They knew his achievements like the back of their hands. The young prodigies had even grown up listening to the legends of the Divine Might Heavenly Sage. I will do my best for the seriousness of this event. Are you ready? Although the chaos is peaceful, the future is not certain. Cultivators have to always be vigilant and respectful. Hanju's voice resounded through the entire void. At this moment, the illusion of the second stage floated in the hall. All living beings would be able to watch the battle and see the Divine Might Heavenly Sage's glory. The Divine Might Heavenly Sage wanted to go all out? How could this be? Hanju didn't care what they thought. He stared at all the geniuses and said, I'll start counting down. I'll attack in 3 breaths. 3! The geniuses were so frightened that they immediately took out their Dharma treasures and used their defensive or evasive mystical powers. The scene was spectacular. All sorts of lights appeared and illuminated the void, making the living beings in 10 Absolute City extremely nervous. 2. Jiangjuesher used the Great Reincarnation Creation Technique. Huang Zuntian and Azure Heaven Mystic activated the Great Tao Providence Divine Authority. Han Huang's body emitted divine light and Han Tuo condensed his fiend celestial Dharma idol. It could be said that they each were displaying their own mystical powers. 1. Hanju suddenly raised his right palm as soon as he finished speaking. Almost instantly, the thousands of geniuses subconsciously wanted to use their movement mystical powers to dodge, but they were too slow. Divine Might Great Heaven Palm. Hanju struck out with his palm and an invisible ultimate origin power erupted. More than 20,000 geniuses were instantly annihilated. Their bodies and souls were destroyed, leaving only a trace of their remnant souls. They didn't even have time to escape. Even the Great Tao Supreme Han Huang and the Great Tao Providence Divine Authority Huang Zuntian were all destroyed without a doubt. Domineering. Powerful. The void fell silent. It was the same in 10 Absolute City. It was different from what they had expected. They thought that there would be a spectacular mystical power scene, but the ultimate origin power was invisible and colorless. In their vision, Hanju waved his palm, and all the geniuses were reduced to ashes. This scene shocked them even more. More than 20,000 remnant souls began to recover. The dozens of geniuses recovered almost instantly. They looked at Hanju in shock. The fastest was not Han Huang. It was Formless World. Hanju secretly paid attention to him. It was indeed impressive. Be it his image or cultivation, he had a chance to reach the eternal peak. As the strongest in the chaos, Hanju's thoughts were extremely powerful. When the geniuses revived, he had already begun to calculate crazily. 2 breaths later, Hanju directly sent all the remaining geniuses who had yet to recover their bodies back to 10 Absolute City. Only 10,000 were left in the void. Many from the Hidden Sect and the Heavenly Tao were also eliminated. The top 10,000 were at least late-stage Freedom Sages. You are the 10,000 strong in the first chaotic assembly, Hanju slowly said, and the 10,000 geniuses secretly heaved a sigh of relief. It had only been 2 breaths of time. If they had let their guard down just now, they would probably have been eliminated. They were more shocked. The Divine Might Heavenly Sage actually used one move. Han Huang's expression was very ugly. He knew that his father was very strong, but after so many years, he thought that he could at least withstand a move from him. He did not expect. Some of the peerless geniuses who were confident in fighting for the eternal peak also had ugly expressions. Hanju deliberately waited until the Great Tao Divine Spirits dispersed the defeated geniuses before sending the top 10,000 back. He did not say much. It was useless no matter what he said. He didn't need to rope in these people. Hanju returned to the hall. All the mighty figures looked at him with reverence, but no one flattered him because they had already seen it previously. Forget it. They wouldn't be able to control them if they were that powerful. The ultimate god of punishment smiled. You've worked hard. Hanju said, I won't do it in the next chaotic assembly. Haha, of course. It's the first assembly, so it has to be special. The ultimate god of punishment smiled. Then, his voice resounded throughout 10 Absolute City. Year. They had to rest for another half a year, but this time, the geniuses really had to rest and restore their Tao hearts. The round just now was too short, but the shock it gave them was unforgettable. They would probably never forget this scene. News of 10 Absolute City also spread throughout the chaos. All the living beings in the chaos were excited. They wished they could personally join in the fun. Below the bottom of the chaos, in the consciousnessless Great Tao world, his face became handsome and strong. He wore a beast skin robe that barely covered his body. He muttered, how lively. Chaos, for how long can you be so prosperous? A sword chi descended from the sky and landed in front of the number 1 deity. It condensed into a sword shadow, and half of Laozi's face was reflected in the blade. The number 1 deity looked at him and asked, are you ready? Laozi asked, I have to know who else is there other than you and me. Tell me everything. Divine Might Heavenly Sage, Tao Ancestor, and Unspeakable Existence, Devil Ancestor, and Northern Chaos Holy Lord. If we join forces, we can summon 90% of the living beings in the chaos, the number 1 deity replied. Laozi narrowed his eyes and asked, may I ask who's behind you? You're sealed here. You can't go to the chaos, right? Laozi was silent. The number 1 deity said, there will be more in the future. As for when something will happen, we still have to wait for the opportunity. Fellow Taoist Li, you can continue to understand the mighty figures who established the great Tao world. If they have any ambitions, they will naturally join us. Laozi replied, I know. With that, the sword shadow dissipated. The number one deity looked up at the bottom of the chaos again. Divine Might Heavenly Sage is really strong. No wonder you said that he has the highest chance of reaching that realm. However, if you can realize this, why can't the Lord of Chaos? Since you realize it, why don't you? The number one deity's eyes flashed with confusion. The third stage of the chaotic assembly began as scheduled. This was also the last stage. It would decide the 1,000 lords, 100 sovereigns, 10 absolutes, and eternal peak. It would be decided in one-on-one random battles. The loser would be eliminated. The Great Tao Supreme was thought to be a Great Tao Sage in the chaos. Most living beings didn't know this realm at all. This round would naturally take a long time. The battle environment was divided into more than 100 deep spaces built by the ultimate god of punishment. Once they entered the battle space, there were no rules on how to emerge victorious. The 100 or so battle spaces were also reflected above 10 absolute city. The living beings in the city were cultivators, so they could see them clearly no matter how far away they were. Hanju was also watching seriously. His attention was mainly focused on the people around him. The black-held chicken would fight in the first 100 battles. This chicken won very easily. If not for the fact that it did not like to cultivate as much as the other fiend celestials, it might have already stepped into the Great Tao realm. Although it won, this fellow's foul mouth embarrassed Hanju. Father, why is it doing this? The opponent is not its enemy. It's so infuriating, Hanling asked with a helpless tone. Hanju replied, after all, it has never left my Tao field. It discovered that it's not weak, so it's too excited. Try to understand. Anyway, it's just too talkative. Too talkative? Hanling was stunned and carefully thought about it. The black-held chicken's performance did not attract the attention of the mighty figures in the hall. After all, there were 100 battle spaces. The battle at the Freedom Sage level could not attract the attention of the mighty figures for the time being, but one person was very unhappy. He was the elder of the black-held chicken's opponent, but because it was a disciple of the hidden sect, he did not dare to say anything. It would probably take a while for the top 10,000 to reach 1,000. Hanju wasn't in a hurry. In any case, he watched with relish. The next day, Hanju's attention was attracted by Han Ming. In this battle, Hanju saw how Han Ming had changed. Or rather, this was the first time he saw Han Ming fight seriously. He was stubborn, just like how he would rather die and reincarnate in order to not trouble him. The battle ended after 2 hours. Han Ming relied on the great Tao power of the chaotic fiend celestial to win forcefully. The chaotic fiend celestial was almost invincible in the freedom realm. After all, if one grasped the power of the great Tao, one had to attain the great Tao to find living beings. Too bad. There were less than 1,000 great Tao geniuses among the top 10,000. Hanju glanced at them and saw that there were only a little more than 200. This number was already a lot. Before the Divine Authority Generals ran rampant in the chaos, there were only more than 100 great Tao sages in the entire chaos. It was enough to show that all these geniuses were not fake. As the main credit was still on the ultimate god of punishment. In the past, the older generation would make things difficult for geniuses, such as Divine Lord Peacock, Guan Bubi's previous life, and so on. They had all been stopped from attaining the Great Tao. He indeed had to have power if he wanted to develop the environment. Hanju thought silently. The ultimate god of punishment was very similar to Heavenly Venerate Shendu, but he had secretly ascended. His methods were ruthless by Heavenly Venerate Xian-Du standards. Heavenly Venerate Xian-Du walked the path of the human, while the ultimate god of punishment was domineering. It's good that they're all working for me. Thinking of this, Hanju felt a little satisfied. If not for him attacking the primordial ancestor god, how could the ultimate god of punishment have ascended? How could the chaos have today's peace? Therefore, in the end, the credit was still his. It was just that he hid his achievements in fame. Hanju watched the battle as he thought. Among the great Tao sages of the hidden sect, Jiang Jueshe participated first. Jiang Jueshe used his great creation at the beginning of the battle to seal the space within a radius of 10,000 miles. He ended the battle with a divine might great heaven palm. However, he was very gentlemanly and did not destroy the other party's body and soul. He stopped when he was done and convinced the other party. Before the other party died, he even cupped his fists and bowed to him. This Jiang Jueshe really has the bearing of a great sage. Although many geniuses are talented, their temperament is as spirited as mortals. The ultimate god of punishment sighed. Many mighty figures in the hall nodded. They remembered Jiang Jueshe. Ever since Jiang Jueshe, Han Huang, Dao Sovereign, Zhao Shenyuan, Jiang Yi, Murongqi, the heavenly constellation Fiend Celestial, the Crimson Fox, Great Loose Heaven, the Time Fiend Celestial, the Traversal Fiend Celestial, Guan Bubi, and the other great Tao sages of the hidden sect had fought one after another. They had all won cleanly, making the various factions extremely envious. What a deep foundation! Under the deliberate arrangements of the ultimate god of punishment, the great Tao sages could not touch each other for the time being. The mighty figures could understand this. It made sense. Hanju paid special attention to Formless World. This child was indeed very strong. Although he hid his aura, Hanju could see through him at a glance. In terms of cultivation, he was even stronger than Han Huang. However, this was nothing. The word formless made Hanju inexplicably think of the formless transcendent deity. He couldn't deduce it, so he used the derivation function in his mind. What's the relationship between the formless transcendent deity and formless world? 1 quadrillion years of lifespan will be deducted. Do you want to continue? Continue. He has part of the inheritance. Part of it? No matter how much, they were related. No wonder. To be able to attain the great Tao Supreme within 100 million years, other than them, who else could it be? Even if there was, he must have cheated like them. Formless World's cheat was created by the formless transcendent deity. A month later, the 1,000 lords were finally decided. Their names and origins appeared in the air, such as Han Huang's Heavenly Court and Han Tuo's Divine Punisher. There was a blank space between the name and location. This was only the reward for status. The resources were immeasurable. There were more than 200 great Tao sages, so they did not encounter each other before. But now it was the 100 sovereign stage. The first to be eliminated from the hidden sect was the Black Hell Chicken. As for Han Qinger and the chaotic Heavenly Dog, they had long been eliminated before the 1,000 lords were decided. How strange! Hanju's heart would ache if the others were eliminated. But the Black Hell Chicken, he would only gloat. Perhaps it was too funny. One freedom sage after another was eliminated. A month later, there were only dozens of freedom sages left. Only Han Ming was left representing the hidden sect. The other participants who were not great Tao sages had already been eliminated. Hanju suddenly felt relieved. His younger brother had indeed grown up and could take charge. Back then, when Hanju knew of Han Ming's existence, he was extremely troubled, afraid that this fellow would cause trouble for him. Now, looking at him, he actually felt like he was looking at a junior. Looks like I'm getting old. Hanju thought silently. He had always felt that he was very young. After all, he didn't have much experience and had always been in seclusion. Time passed. There were only 200 geniuses left. The hidden sect occupied 10% of the spots. Such a lineup had already spread in 10 absolute city. The title of the number one orthodoxy in the chaos belonged to the hidden sect just like that. On the void battlefield, the black-robed Han Ming took out a flying dagger and circled it in his palm. A great Dao sage stood 1,000 kilometers away from him. He had a human figure and wore a green feathered Daoist robe, but his head looked like a demonic bird. Freedom Realm? Admit defeat. Be more dignified. I know you. You're from the hidden sect. It's said that you're the Divine Might Heavenly Sage's younger brother? The Daoist robed sage said with a calm tone. No disdain or fear could be sensed in his voice. Han Ming smiled and said, My name is Han Ming. I came to participate in the chaotic assembly to represent myself. I'm not qualified to represent the Divine Might Heavenly Sage. Come, even if I lose, you have to destroy my body and soul so that I won't have any regrets. This space had a special array formation. At the moment of life and death, it could protect a remnant soul of a prodigy. The Daoist robed sage did not befriend him. The two sides immediately fought. Han Ming transformed into Soul Chi and entered the flying dagger. He was the Soul Fiend Celestial. Against Great Dao sages, he could only use the Great Dao of Soul. The flying dagger split into countless blades that attacked the Daoist robed sage from different directions. The Daoist robed sage did not panic at all. He raised his hand and used a mystical power. His right hand drew a circle in front of him, and a golden circle appeared. Han Ming, who had transformed into a flying dagger, saw the Daoist robed sage suddenly disappear, but the golden circle of light was still there. Countless flying daggers circled around the golden circle, wanting to find the Daoist robed sage. No! He's not hiding! Han Ming suddenly woke up and controlled all the flying daggers to rush at the golden circle. At this moment, the golden circle shrunk and disappeared. In the other space, the Daoist robed sage retracted his sleeve. Actually, he was not hiding. Instead, he had secretly changed the sky and moved Han Ming into his mystical power space. Let's end it like this. It can be considered giving the Divine Might Heavenly Sage face, the Daoist robed sage muttered with a casual tone. Hanju was speechless. How pretentious. Why say that? Wasn't this for them to hear? He even said it twice. A great Dao Supreme below smiled. Which family's child is so insensible? Heavenly Sage, do we need to teach him a lesson? The other mighty figures also teased him. They looked like they were joking, but they were actually very serious. The Daoist robed sage's elder hurriedly stood up and said, Heavenly Sage, don't blame him. My disciple has been in seclusion and his temperament has yet to mature. When he's done, I'll definitely teach him a lesson. Hanju smiled, indicating that he didn't care. He looked at the sky again. The battle was not over. The Daoist robed sage was waiting for it to end when black mist suddenly surged out from his sleeve. It was formed by his soul thought. It began to envelop his body like maggots. He was so shocked that he circulated his dermic powers to disperse it. The great Dao of Soul directly entered his soul. The Daoist robed sage's pupils constricted as Han Ming's figure appeared. It's not that simple. Great Dao Sage? Do you know how many Great Dao Sages I've sparred with? Han Ming's voice sounded in the Daoist robed sage's ears, stimulating him. All the mighty figures in the hall were attracted by the battle. Battles between Freedom Sages and Great Dao Sages usually ended in an instant. They didn't expect a variable to appear in this battle. Han Ling replied, Uncle will lose. The difference in cultivation level is too great. It's difficult to surpass his mystical power. Hanju didn't reply, tacitly agreeing. His words moved the mighty figures present. The Divine Punisher was in existence with a higher status than the Great Tao Divine Spirit. However, its power was inferior to the Great Tao Divine Spirit. After all, the Great Tao Divine Spirits each controlled a domain. The mighty figures were secretly envious, but they didn't dare to say anything. After all, Han Ming was the Divine Might Heavenly Sage's younger brother. Besides, Han Ming's potential indeed qualified him. The battle lasted for an hour before Han Ming was finally defeated. Reality was not that surprising. The other party was not an ordinary Great Tao Sage. He was also a peerless prodigy who had stepped on countless bones to reach this day. The 100 strongest were drawing to a close. Several days later, the 100 sovereigns were successfully decided. A few Great Tao sages fought in advance and were eliminated. No disciples of the hidden sect were among them. Almost all the people in the hidden sect who had reached this point were great creation and chaotic fiend celestials. How could they lose? The 100 sovereigns were decided, and their names shook 10 absolute city. The ultimate god of punishment especially let them recuperate for a month before starting the next stage. At this point, every battle in the chaotic assembly was world-shattering. The ultimate god of punishment had only created a battle void to let all the living beings in 10 absolute city clearly experience the glory of the 100 geniuses. The first battle was Han Tuo's. His opponent was actually another divine punisher. The identities of the two sides caused an uproar. Did the ultimate god of punishment do it on purpose? Was he afraid that outsiders would say that he was manipulating things? But this was too ruthless. The two divine punishers were also stunned when they saw each other. Han Tuo laughed. "Fourth brother, we've already expected such a situation. Come, don't stand on ceremony. I'll be even happier if you can defeat me." Hei Fa said excitedly, "All right. Although we've sparred many times, I've always wanted to defeat you." Han Tuo was the first to attack. He knew that if he did not attack, the two of them would humble themselves. The 5 great divine punishers were noble beings. How could they act like children in front of others? The difference in strength between the two was not unexpected. Han Ju was more interested in Han Huang, Huang Zuantian, Zhao Shuangchuan, and Azure Heaven Mystic. Although the latter two's cultivation levels were not top-notch, they had a powerful background. They were even more heaven-defying than Formless World. Especially Zhao Shuangchuan. Several days later, 7 rounds were already over. 8th match. Jiang Jueshe vs. Dao Sovereign. This battle attracted the attention of many people, including Han Ju. "Both of them are so strong," Han Ling muttered. She had seen Jiang Jueshe before, but this was the first time she saw Dao Sovereign. Han Ju looked expectant. Dao Sovereign had been cultivating in the consciousnessless Great Dao world during this period of time. It seemed that he had indeed achieved something. Great Dao Providence Divine Authority versus Innate Great Creation. In the void battlefield, the two of them looked at each other. Jiang Jueshe and Dao Sovereign had already met before, but they rarely spoke. He didn't expect them to meet so quickly. Dao Sovereign smiled and said, "Junior Jiang, you've been quite famous in the chaos all these years. Don't disappoint me. I have the same intention as Han Tuo. I'll be even happier if you can defeat me."